It's the Brad and John Show.
It's the Brad and John Show. Hold on, let me clear my voice. Brad and John Show. Today's date is the 29th of September. That makes it a Monday, the last Monday in September. John, lots of good things going on, and a lot of bad things going on as well, too. Your situation, your read on this crazy, crazy situation with the guy that drove his truck into the church, shot a bunch of people, and then caught the place on fire. Is this getting weird or what?
Yeah, and of course, the first thing I saw about it, and I haven't really read much about it, Brad, but I did see Democrats apparently, or I should say progressives, apparently celebrating because they say that he's a MAGA guy.
Yeah, supposedly he's a former Marine, and I don't know. I think what this comes down to is, and I hate to say this is another one of suicide by cop and go out with as much carnage as you can on the way out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. And, I just see the hypocrisy of every time a progressive or a transgender attacks someone, it's suddenly a mental health issue. But when it's somebody that might have possibly voted for Donald Trump, it's right-wing extremist violence.
Well, the guy's just a nutbag and a vicious, nasty, horrible nutbag at that, where he smashes his church or his truck into a church, and they're still trying to piece together the timeline. Supposedly, one article I read said he smashed into the back of the church. Another said he smashed into the front of the church. He gets out and starts shooting people. Somehow or another, he catches the church on fire. The church burns to the ground. And it's gone. Just like a shell of it left. And he goes out in the parking lot, and police responded within 10 minutes. They had the police chief on there giving the exact times. The police got there within 10 minutes, and within like 7 minutes, he was dead. And they had a shootout. And, John, once again, I say, here you go, you're going to make fun of me for saying once again, police officers, people make fun of them. They've gone out of favor. They're back in favor for a while. Remember, after George Floyd, we had all the police show that were taken off TV. Cops was taken off TV. Police were terrible. Every last cop was what he really wanted to do. He wanted to get black people and beat the crap out of them. That's what every cop wanted to do. Okay, so now we have police officers who getting back a little bit of the honor and prestige that they deserve. Can you imagine getting that call? Can you imagine being a police officer responding to that call, and you show up and the guy's out in the parking lot shooting people? What? And to the point where he's got an AR. Chances are they are maybe they had their what they call their squad rifles, which typically is an AR style rifle. Maybe they got out their ARs and returned fire. But when they initially show up, they're, using their probably a 9mm sidearm against a guy with probably a scope and an AR-15, and they shot him and they killed him? Can you imagine the courage involved in that alone?
Yeah, and then having to go home and spend the rest of your life knowing that you ended somebody's life.
Well, but not only that. It's the whole point that then the aftermath, the people, the waiting for the ambulances to show up. And remember, that's a situation where before the police, before the fire and ambulance workers can get in, they have to make sure the scene is secure. So they have to essentially, the firefighters and the paramedics are not allowed, typically in most scenes, that's usual procedure. They're not allowed into an active crime scene if there's still the chance of them getting shot, which, so do you know how much they were delayed? But what a horrible situation. And it's a church. And then the thing that cracks me up, it's a Church of the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons church. So there's all these sort of articles in the Post and in the national news I was reading about. They're talking about Mormonism. They're talking about, and then they bring about the fact that the original guy had 100 wives or something. It's like, okay, whatever. I have good friends who I consider to be good friends who are Mormons. Caleb Hunter, who is an advertiser in this station or other station, who runs Extreme Electrical. He is a Mormon. I have been to a couple of he's invited me to his church a couple of times for events he's been involved in. And I went, and I have to tell you, the Mormons that I know, and there's quite a few of them in St. Charles County. It's sort of surprising how many there are in St. Charles County. They couldn't be better people. They are like, to me, and I know probably a good half dozen of them, they are all very wonderful people doing their jobs, run their businesses, helping out people, never, underhanded kind of stuff going on. They're just good folk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're a testament. So I have the same experience with Mormons, Brad. They're true evangelists in that you meet them and they're happy people. And again, I'm stereotyping here, but it's based on real experience. They're happy. They're the kind of people that aren't. They're less likely, I think, to gossip about people or act in a small way, I would say.
Right. And usually very generous with their time and money, support. And the ones I know, like Caleb Hunter, he's always sponsoring things through the chambers and stuff like that. He's a big community supporter. And he's the kind of guy that in the community, everybody knows Caleb. And to the point where he runs two great businesses. He's got his Stream Electrical. He's got his Salt River Automotive. He runs out there on Salt River Road out there. And I don't know if that's St. Peter's or O'Fallon. It's sort of weird, some of those areas out there. You don't know exactly where the boundary lines are. And maybe it's anecdotal, but of the Mormons I know, every last one of them I would trust my life with. If something happened where I had to essentially say, okay, protect me or whatever, those are the people I would call. You know what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, I gotcha. And the other thing is, when you think about it, Salt River is generally a better place than Three Creeks. If you got to deal with bodies of water, go with Salt River instead of Three Creeks, because I heard on Westplex Talk that Three Creeks is just a sham. That's what I heard.
It is.
I heard that when you go in there, sometimes people will see you in the grocery store or a hardware store, and then they'll tell you to come out to the truck and they're going to shoot you, right?
Not necessarily
or something
shoot
like
me,
that.
but anyway. Okay. Also, something that I've seen recently, the Obama library debacle in Chicago. You know what I'm talking about with this?
No, what happened here?
Oh, this has turned into an unbelievable mess. His library, the city of Chicago gave like 16 acres of a park to him to build this library, okay? It's already way over budget.
No, not in Chicago.
Yes, and supposedly the original budget was like $350 million. They claim it's up to like $860 million. It's not done yet. And the interesting part of it is some sleuths who found out some information about the fact that the Obamas said they were going to essentially make sure that they would never have to have the city of Chicago bail them out. They were going to put in this endowment, and they were going to endow the library. And the official paperwork has come up that several years ago, they did make a donation to the endowment. They donated $1 million. Now the library is up to 800, and it's not even done yet. Now, first off, I asked two questions. Why do we need presidential libraries? Have you ever been to a presidential library, John?
I have, yeah. I've been to LBJ, and I've been to, I think maybe that's the only one.
Okay, why did you go?
Because I thought it would be, it's a tourist place, and I thought I'd see some cool political history there, and I did.
So, but was it? I don't know. Where's LBJ's? Is it in Austin? Where's it at?
Yeah, it was in Austin. Yeah.
Is it a big?
You know what? I may have gone to, the Nixon or Reagan one. It was probably 20 years ago. But I thought the LBJ one was super cool.
Okay, but was it a huge, monstrous building that's like 20 stories tall or something like that?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, that's what the Obama place is. And it's like on 16 acres. And the people are complaining about the fact that they went into an area which is on the south side of Chicago. Remember, there's on the south side of Chicago, the bad Leroy Brown. Anyway, the people are complaining that now what it's done is it was a good neighborhood and they've torn it up with this construction project. And now because of the fact that the Obama library, there's gentrification going on, that all the affordable houses are being bought out by these.
No, you don't want to raise the property value of an area. That's terrible.
Right. Okay, maybe one last thing to talk about, and then we will call it a day. Okay. I heard an interesting thing over the weekend, which I had forgotten about, and I will make a point of explaining how important it used to be, not as much as it is now, but it used to be. The reason that Johnny Carson was important to NBC, and I forgot about this because this is one of these Radio 101 stories where you get taught way back in my beginning years of the radio business. Okay, do you know why Johnny Carson was important to NBC? Not only was he like the number one rated talk show at night, variety entertainment show, but he also made a lot of money. But there was a third most important reason for this. You know what this was, John?
No idea. What is it, Brad?
What you go to bed with is what you wake up with. And if you go to bed watching Tonight Show, you watch Johnny Carson, you turn the TV set off back in the day. When you wake up in the morning and turn the TV set on, it's on in our case, local Channel 5, which is the NBC affiliate.
I get it. And especially, Brad, remember the old days where you had to actually manually turn a dial on the television.
Right. And when you woke up in the morning, if you turned the TV on, you had the Today Show, which for a long time was the number one show in the United States as far as the morning shows, the morning, news talk stations or news talk network programming. Okay. And what I thought was interesting, the guy who was making this point, I heard this talk show over the weekend, saying this is why the Jimmy Kimmel and the Colbert shows have caused problems for the network executives, because the fact that there are so many people, especially Republicans, who are not going to watch Jimmy Kimmel, they're not going to watch Colbert. They might watch Jimmy Fallon because he's not as dyed-in-the-wool nutbag as the other guys are. And the point being is that they don't recycle the listeners, or in this case, the viewers, in the morning. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. So in other words, losing them isn't a big deal.
Well, no, the point being is that if you don't have a strong show at night with viewership, that if people wake up in the morning, and perfect example here in St. Louis, Sinclair put Jimmy Kimmel back on. If people wake up, they go to bed with Jimmy Kimmel, not literally, but they go to bed with Jimmy Kimmel. And when they wake up in the morning, if they turn on the TV, it's still on Channel 30, they're watching Good Morning America. Well, if you're not watching Jimmy Kimmel at night, you're not watching chances are you're not watching Good Morning America in the morning. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. So Johnny Carson then was key to the Monday ratings, not just the evening ratings.
Right. Key to the morning ratings. I think you said Monday ratings. Yeah. Key to the morning ratings. Yes, exactly. And it was the same way in radio. You always had, in the radio business, you always had a strong, what they call an evening guy on the air, an evening jock, a 6 to 10 jock. Matter of fact, you go back in some of the days of radio back in the 70s and or even early 80s, the radio stations, the 7 to midnight guy or the 6 to 10 guy, a lot of times had better ratings than the morning show did, because a lot of people listen to radio in the evening. Now it's not that case anymore. But
I would listen to the Big Bumper, and then that way in the morning I could have Total Information AM.
See, that's exactly my point. The idea if you go to sleep with, go to bed with a radio station or TV station, you wake up with that. So in other words, if you have a reason for people not to watch that TV station, in this case, the Jimmy Kimmel thing or the Colbert show, you didn't have that morning show. And look at that situation. Good Morning America has done better in the ratings in recent years, but CBS has always struggled with their morning show because they had, and back in the day they didn't, because when they had David Letterman on, they had a strong morning show because people went to bed with David Letterman and they woke up with the CBS morning people. Now it's like Gayle King and, who's Michael Strahan, people like that. And who watches those shows anymore? Do you watch those shows anymore, John?
Absolutely not.
I got it on.
And it reminds me, we just got a text from a listener that heard B Block. She said she's in her 80s and she wants to meet me for lunch in Chesterfield. I have a feeling she's just trying to get close to me so that she could get close to Brad Hildebrand. She said something about, maybe you could put a word in with Mr. Hildebrand. I told her she looked good for being 80. And then this angry chick from St. Louis Public Radio barged in and said, "That's sexist." R.I.P. Don Marsh. He's still with us, but his career's gone.
Was that Elaine Cha that said that?
No, it was some angry, I don't know, some feminist broad that worked there.
Okay, John. We going to do this again tomorrow? Is that okay with you?
I think so, Brad. I think we're going to do it tomorrow. Let's try
it again tomorrow. Okay. Hasta la vista, baby. Or I could say AMF. John, talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Brad.